Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for receiving us here in your meeting from the European Christian Political Party. As the chairman already said, my name is Jacques Baze. I helped the ECPP as treasurer to see that all the financial things are being arranged in proper order. And we are, of course, congratulating Jobbik with this organization of this event, because it is indeed a very important subject that we are dealing with today. I was asked to provide a brief overview of our political party, where Jobbik is also a member of, and I would like to show you here just the 7 spearheads of our party, which I would like to very briefly mention. First of all, the ECPP is the only European political party that openly expresses the Christian roots of Europe and the Christian way of dealing with our societies. And the second point is that we are, and the chairman already mentioned it at the beginning, the second spearhead is the human dignity, where we try to see that every life should be valued equally. Then fighting modern slavery. Unfortunately, there is a lot of people who are being exploited. We like to fight for that. We can see this, what we discussed today, as a form of slavery to some sort of unequal cartel system, as our first speaker already talked today. So we are very much, fighting against such practices with the possibilities that we have. In the center, you see the word relational economics. That is what I would like to go into a little bit deeper, because it is very much connected to our situation that we discussed today. Then freedom, security and stability. We are of course for a free Europe, a secure and stable Europe, as we discussed before, where the rule of law should prevail for all the member states, for all the citizens in the member states. And as we heard from our previous speaker, this is under threat in Hungary at the moment. We have the next spearhead is on healthy families. We believe that the family unit is the cornerstone of the society, and we should have policies that promote the importance of families. And the last one, reforming the European Union. Well, every organization needs to be reformed every now and then, and especially when we talk about the European Union. One of those things that was protested by some of our members of European Parliament was indeed the court case of the Parliament against the European Commission as being not correct thinking. There should be reforms that prevent such kind of, unlawful actions. Briefly, I will show you the map of Europe with countries that we have member parties in. As ECPP, we are only a small European political party, but nonetheless, we have in the light blue countries we have member parties, and in the dark blue countries we also have representation in national or European Parliament. In the European Parliament, you will see here the layout of the European Parliament. The key is of this figure is downstairs, is down on the picture, and you see that the members of the ECPP are mostly in the ECR group or in the EPP group, the European People's Party and ECR. And I'll give you a brief overview. These are the 7 members of the European Parliament, which are members of the ECPP party. And then I would like to continue a little bit with a discussion on relational economics in relation to the subject today. we do with relational economics and what ECPP stands for is to look at the economy as a sort of a network of relations in the first place. We don't talk about, as you see a lot, maximizing shareholder value, short term, etc., etc. Yes, we need to survive in the short term, of course. We need to survive, we need to work. It's nothing bad to think about shareholder value, to think about profit, and so on and so forth, but not at all costs. If you forget the long run, the relations that are the basis of any economic activity, the long-term human relations that form and make and constitute the economy, you make a sort of a caricature of economy. And that is what we like to bring forward in the way that we work in the ECPP party. So, how we see the economy is that we see the economy as a place where the people work together to achieve results. For example, better living circumstances, wealth, and we have to stress in the economy the human interactions more than just thinking about cash flows and maximizing profits, etc. There's nothing wrong with profits. We have to have profits. I mean, we all understand the basic things of economics, but not at all costs, and especially not aimed at short-term issues. So, if we take a look at the traditional economic view, we have the production factors, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, you know them all, no doubt. Profit maximization of uses of these four basic production factors, that's what is okay. And then again, there is nothing wrong with using production factors in the best and most efficient way. There's nothing wrong. There is just, we believe in relational economics, in ECPP and in most of our member parties as well, we believe in that there is more than just that. There is also, we should have the attention for the human networks that are underlying those production factors. We should have attention for the local context, and I will give you a couple of examples about this in a few minutes, not to make it so abstract. We have to think about how business networks can really help to support innovation by limiting risks. We have to think that we have to get rid of the idea that the economy is neutral, that it is a sort of a mathematical equations, right? There is one optimal outcome and that's what we go for. No, economy is not neutral. It's a human. It's about humans and how they relate to each other, right? So ethics is really important as well, and we should take that into consideration. And of course, a problem with many of the traditional economic models is that they are quite static. It's, as I said, a mathematical equation. What to do with it? Human society is dynamic. A lot of things are changing. How do we bring that into the equation, so to say? For example, there are a number of questions that traditional economists cannot really find an answer to. Why are certain regions more innovative than others? If you take a look at within European member states, some regions are much more innovative than others. And if you zoom in further, you see that certain cities are much more innovative than others. How is that possible? If you work in the traditional economic point of view with the production factors, land, labor, capital, you cannot explain why this is happening. In relational economy, you say, okay, relational economics, take a look. Usually those regions which are successful are very close, working together communities with a lot of trust among each other. And if one thing helps out for economic development and innovation growth, it is the factor trust. It's difficult to make that quantitative, but we try to work in our policies to focus on these issues. How can you create trust? The opposite of trust can also happen. We have to be clear about it. I mean, when you think about relational economic point of view and look at it to certain cities, You see, sometimes the things don't work out. Then it's a so-called thing which is called lock-in. Huh? This is not how we do the things here. Why should we innovate and do something different? This is not how we did it before. Yeah? But then you can explain, at least, why certain processes work out and do not work out in certain regions. Huh? So this lock-in principle also is a quite interesting point of view to which we can try with policy measures to prevent it. Why there is more unemployment in certain regions than others? You cannot explain it with the macroeconomic variables, etc. But you can explain this if you look at human networks and the strength of communities where people help each other. That's really good. However, the opposite can also happen, namely exclusion. You don't belong to our group. We do not want to deal with you. You are that different person. That's the opposite, the exclusion. So we have to work on preventing those kind of negative parts of it. Huh? Try to see how we can get people into the communities. Yeah, so, why do people report higher quality of life? We see there's strong networks of local networks offer protection against people deliberately, or against businesses, companies, or others, people deliberately damaging the living environment. Huh? So, don't throw waste on the street. Come on. Not because you get a fine, but because your neighbor tells you not to do it, right? It's much more effective, because the police can't be everywhere at the same time, right? But that kind of thing happens. In strong communities, there is usually a lot better reported living circumstances. Also, the opposite can happen. Eh? Think about externalization effects. Let someone else, somewhere in Africa or so, clean up our trash. Eh? This is something we can fight against in our policies to make sure that our problems are not transported to some place else where it shouldn't be. So, I just have a few minutes left, but I would like to give you a small example from the Netherlands, where I come from, where in a very local places in the province, this is this is a map of the Netherlands, and you see here is the province, biggest city where I work is Enschede here. But there is in this small province, even if you look at the economy from a relational economics point of view, you can find within that province a lot of small, strong communities, economic communities, where people help each other to deal with all kinds of effects of economic change and of trends and developments that happen in the world. And it doesn't really matter too much how and what exactly, but I just give you 4 examples of 4 towns there. There is one city, one small city, where the carpet industry is extremely strong. A lot of carpet factories, and if you, like me as a, like a university lecturer, come into several other countries and we talk with companies and they say, yeah, if we want to buy carpets in the Netherlands, we have to go to this town. They're very weird people, from a culture. We don't understand them very well. They're very weird. But they have the best products and they know how to do things, for example. Metal industry, building industry, and there is this thing which is called, I don't have a good English translation for it. It's called Nachbarschap, Nachbarschaft auf Deutsch. And this neighborship or Nachbarschaft, the way that it's also meant in the German sense of the word, is an extremely important thing for those communities. The people, they understand the government is not going to do too much for us. We have to help each other out in situations where it's needed.
Neighborhood watch.
Yeah, but neighborhood watch is... it's not exactly similar, but it looks... It is Nachbarschaft, gute Nachbarschaft auf Deutsch, is what is that meant with this Nachbarschap. It's more than neighborhood watch, much more. It's not just looking at negative things to prevent negative things, but to help each other in a positive way when trouble arises. Okay? And that is a typical example of relational economic point of view. When you look at the economy there, you see a lot of good issues. So, I just have 1 minute left according to my German watch, which is very strict. How would relational economic thinking help us in the subject of today? Now, first of all, if you think from a relational economic point of view from the beginning, there should be much more attention for long-term consequences and risks. So, easy short-term gains as driving motives of business. We heard it in the first contribution. That is not good. That creates economic bubbles in the first place, and it's not a good idea to, as a legislator, as a country, to allow for these kind of practices to go unchecked. So therefore, as ECPP, we believe in government interventions to set the fair conditions, the rules of the game. The rule of the game. So it cannot be expected. What is the rule of the game? To inform the people in a correct way. We cannot assume, it cannot be expected that citizens know everything in detail. It's impossible. We have to have top-down customer protection rules. We heard it in the first presentation today. Very important. But at the same time, we also have at the same time a different bottom-up approach. And we believe that empowering citizens, it's one of our main slogans, empower. At ECPM, we believe that we should also empower citizens through education and consumer organizations to make a bigger impact than what they could do alone all by themselves. So with these two aspects, we believe that that is very important to protect the consumers. Well, I will not really go into detail of this specific thing because it was already very well explained in the first lecture, and my time is up. So I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to our discussion afterwards. Thank you very much.